Hey guys, I'm glad you're checking this screencast out for a review of some of the harder questions or more frequently missed questions on our first semester exam. We're going to jump right in here. This is the last page of the exam. You guys, it was 43 questions long, so we got questions 33 through 43 here. And I've gone ahead and I've actually circled the right answer for each of these. We're going to try and go through and work them here in about 10 minutes, maybe 15 minutes on this screencast, so just bear that in mind. Each of the solutions that you should have, each of the answers that you should have picked, it has been circled on your screen. All of you also should have your Scantron, the document that you filled out last semester at the end of the quarter there with the exam. So you see which answers you picked and you see which answers you should have picked. So this first question is a system of equations, and you'll notice that it's not set up ready to go for substitution or elimination. So I need to do a little bit of prep work up to this point. I'm going to subtract 4x from both sides on this top equation. So we got negative 4x plus 3y equals negative 8, right? And then 8x minus 6y equals 14. Now, I noticed that both the x and the y terms should be easily cancelable if I just multiply by 2 on that top equation. So let me go ahead and actually do that, and then I'll make a new top equation, negative 8x positive 6y, and negative 16 on the top. And then we got 8x, negative 6y, and 14 on the bottom. Now, I've studied a lot, and I'm ready for this exam, and I'm a student who knows what he's doing, so I can already tell that when the left side cancels out like that, it's going to be one of our two special cases. And over here, this becomes very obvious that there's no possible way to make 0 equal negative 2, so I know that's called an inconsistent system. That's where the lines are parallel. No solution for number 33. Okay? Now, number 34, it's long division. Polynomial long division is something we did before the break, and we want to make sure we don't skip terms. That's the trick here. So we got 2x cubed plus 0x squared minus 10x plus 28. That is our dividend in its entirety, and our divisor goes on the outside. It's just a simple x plus 3. So I'm going to focus in on the first term of the dividend and the first term of the divisor, and I'll ask, what do I need to multiply times x to get 2x cubed? And that's easy. That's 2x squared. Go through with my multiplication. I get 2x cubed and 6x squared. After we multiply, we subtract, change the sign, cancel by design, and then we bring one down, pass it around. So we got negative 6x squared, negative 10x, and we repeat the process. Now I'm going to check to see, okay, well, what do I multiply by x in order to get negative 6x squared? And this algorithm repeats. So it's going to be negative 6x, and then we multiply negative 6x times x, and negative 6x times 3, change the sign, cancel by design, and we've got 8x. And finally, we bring down our 28. Last step in the process here, we're going to multiply, ask the question, what do I multiply times x to get 8x? And that's an obvious 8 at this point. Now multiply 8 times x, multiply 8 times 3, subtract, cancel by design, and in this case I got a remainder of 4, and so that answers my question, the remainder of 4. Now there are quicker ways to do that, but this was using long division. You'll learn some quicker ways in Algebra 2. Number 35, when we look at number 35, that's a simple interest formula, so I have to have that formula memorized. I'll write that up in red. Simple interest, I equals PRT, so the amount of interest earned, okay, in an investment of P dollars times a rate of R% times the duration, which is T years. So it says how much money is in an account which earns simple interest when $2,500 is invested. So that's my principal investment, $2,500. It's invested at a rate of 1%, so that's going to be multiplied by 0.01. Don't forget a decimal version of a percent, and we're going to do that for 7 years. Now multiplying by 0.01 is very simple because that's just actually going to kill off those two zeros. So this question is 25 times 7, and then 25 times 7 is something that I could either do long ways like I'm showing you here, or if you just think about 7 quarters, how much money is that? 4 quarters makes $1, so that's $1.75, and then 175. Adding on to, it says how much money is in the account after 7 years, so of course I get to keep that principal investment, so 2,500 plus 175 gets me that 2675. That one really, if you knew your formula, you were good to go on that one. Some of the more common mistakes stemmed from not changing the decimal version of that percent. Now, number 36 says solve absolute value inequality. First thing I want to do down here is I want to get the absolute value by itself. So if I add 1 to both sides and divide by 5, I get absolute value of 3 minus 2x. And then greater than, so I didn't divide by or multiply by any negatives. Adding 1 makes 35, divide by 5 makes 7. And so what I've got now is a greater. I know this is going to be an or statement because absolute value is greater than something means that I've got an or. So we got 3 minus 2x is greater than 7, or 3 minus 2x is less than negative 7. We split it, write it twice, solve both. Subtracting 3, negative 2x greater than 4, divide by negative 2. And here, please make a note, here's where I switch the direction of the inequality because I'm dividing by negative 2. 4 divided by negative 2. And then over the same side, or rather the right side, I'm going to do the same 2 steps. Subtract 3. In this case, I get negative 10. Divide by my negative 2. Here again, I'm going to change the direction of the inequality, and I get a positive 5. So x is less than negative 2, or x is greater than positive 5. That's going to be my C option right there. Pretty straightforward, no curveballs there at all. Now, number 37 says, which equation passes through the line, which equation is of the line that passes through these 2 points? You can do this one of 2 ways. You could check both points by plugging them in to each and every equation, but that takes a while, especially if the answer was like answer D. I'm probably not going to start with answer D, so I will have wasted a little bit of time plugging and chugging. The quicker way, the more efficient way to do it is just actually go ahead and find the equation of the line that passes through both of those points. And I would start by doing my slope. Remember, slope, here we'll do this one in orange. Slope m equals change in y, so negative 9 minus 2, that's y2 minus y1, over change in x, x2 minus x1, 5 minus 3. 5 minus 3, that's going to be negative 11 over 2. All right, so that's my slope. And I can take this and I can plug it in to this point slope form, y minus y1 equals m x minus x1. That's the way I prefer doing it. Some students would prefer to plug it into slope-intercept form, right? Where they plug in y equals mx plus b, y coordinate. I'm just using this first point, by the way. You could use either one. The y coordinate is 2. The slope is negative 11 halves. So that's mx and then plus b. Whichever way floats your boat. I care not. Most of you guys probably did it the second way, so I've got space to work it out over here. I'll already go ahead and do that. Let me multiply everything by 2. I don't like the fraction, so I'll just kill that fraction. So negative, and we can do 11 times 3 easily enough, negative 33, and then 2b. We'll add 33 to both sides, and we get 37, and then divide by 2, so we get 37 halves equals b. So my formula here, again, I got plenty of room. I'll write this up. Y equals negative 11 halves. This is slope-intercept form, x plus 37 halves. Now you'll notice that that's not one of my answers. All of my answers, well, the first 2 answers stack up as really easily to, I can cancel those out because they don't have the same slope. And then my last 2 answers are in standard form. All I have to do is multiply everything by 2. So I got 2y equals negative 11x plus 37, and then add 11x to both sides. 11x plus 2y equals 37, and then I've got my answer right there, okay? There, again, other ways to work that problem. Once you maybe make the smart decision, if you find your slope, first and foremost, you could probably go ahead and scratch off both A and B because neither of those have that slope. And you can actually go ahead and cancel off D too because obviously it doesn't have that slope involved with the 11, okay? 38 is just a knowledge question. Do you know what perpendicular lines have? Perpendicular lines, remember, look like this. It's where they intersect at at a right angle, okay, perpendicular lines. Therefore, they don't have the same slope. They have different slopes, very different slopes. Their slopes are opposite reciprocals. So perpendicular lines do not have the same slope. That's false. What kind of lines do have the same slope? Ask yourself that question. Hopefully you answered parallel lines. Parallel lines have the same slope, okay? We've talked recently about this. I think this week, as a matter of fact, we discussed some function notation. But the question here says, hey, given the function f of x is 3 square root of x plus 1, which of the following values of s satisfies the equation f of 3 equals 3s plus 3? This is really 2 questions in one. It's checking, first of all, does he know what f of 3 means? And of course you do. That means you plug in where f of x is. Now we have f of 3, so in the in the rule here, instead of x, we plug in 3. Okay, 3 plus 1 is 4, square root of which is 2. 2 times 3 is 6. So f of 3 is 6. So now the second thing they're testing is, okay, do we know how to solve, do we know how to solve a basic equation like this, where f of 3 becomes 6? Let's subtract 3 from both sides. We get 3 equals 3s, so s equals 1. And away we go. If I'm moving too quickly, please feel free to go back through and look at this video again, go through any of these questions that you might have missed back in December, and hopefully this is making a little bit more sense for you. Moving on into our last 4 questions. The range of a function, remember, is a set of y values. Okay, so when you think about the set of y values for absolute value, you can look at it one of 2 ways. Here's the graph of absolute value. If you remember, we talked about the graph being a V shape, absolute value with a V. And so the range here would be numbers that are above, on or above the x-axis. Okay, so that's why it's y is greater than or equal to 0. Another way of looking at it is just understanding what absolute value is. Okay, absolute value is the value of a number regardless of its sign. Some of you guys in class would say the absolute value is never negative. Okay, and when we talk about range, probably the most frequently missed part of this question is students would answer option B. Just remember that range pertains to the y values of a function, okay? Domain pertains to x values. Range pertains to y values, all right? The reason that number 41 is false, I don't want this to seem like a trick question, but a lot of you guys probably thought, if you missed this one, you probably thought, well, coach, there's a parabola, and you've taught us that lowest point right there on that parabola is the vertex. And while that's very true, read the sentence again. It says the vertex is the lowest point of any given parabola. So, I might give you a parabola that's concave down. I might say, hey, consider the function y equals negative x squared, whose graph looks like this. All right? Are you telling me that this vertex is the lowest point on that given parabola? I think not. So the reason that this one's false is because although that statement applies to concave up parabolas, it does not apply to all or any parabolas. Now, number 42 is a word problem. It's a mixture problem. And I've encouraged you guys several times with mixture problems, go ahead and make yourself a chart, okay, where we've got part 1, we've got part 2, and we've got the whole. And then we've got rate, quantity, and total. If you've studied, if you've prepped, then you could set this kind of chart up in your sleep as soon as you recognize, ooh, this is a mixture problem, okay? Now, part 1 here is the lemonade that we start with, okay? So its concentration rate, its percentage, would be 80%, so 0.8. And you're adding water. How much of water is lemonade? 0%. And we want to bring that down to 60%. So our mixture, I don't know why I wrote a W. I meant to write an M, pardon me. Our mixture is 60%. So that's the column that I know everything about. All right, the quantity, the amount column, I start with 1 liter. I add an unknown amount of water, X liters. So now down here I've got 1 plus X that's in my jug of lemonade. Okay, and then we multiply from left to right. 1 times 0.8 is 0.8. Okay, 0 times X is 0. And then right down here where I'm putting this star is where we're going to get our equation. We multiply from left to right, and we equate that with the addition of the column on the right-hand side there. So what we've got is 0.8 plus 0, 0.8, equals 0.6 times quantity 1 plus X. All right, so at this point we can multiply both sides by 10. That seems to make things a little bit easier. 1 plus X equals 8. And if you want, you could divide both sides by 6 at this point. 1 plus X equals 8 over 6, which is 4/3. 4/3. And then we subtract 1 from that, from both sides. So we'll subtract 3/3 from both sides, and we get X equals 1/3. Okay, so X equals 1/3 of a liter. So if I start with 1 liter of 80% lemonade and I add in a third of a liter, then I'm dropping that percentage down. Obviously, 1/3 is not any of these options. If you picked option A, you were probably just tempted because you saw the 0.3. Remember, that is not 1/3, that is 3/10. And then finally, I see my time is getting up, and we're down to the last question here. So number 43 says find the x-intercept. Remember that the x-intercept of a function is when y equals 0. So I just want to plug in 0 for that y. I'll tell you guys in class, just do the cover-up principle. Just cover up that term that has y in it, and you'll figure out what the x is real quick. 2x equals 6 means that x must equal 3. So that's my point right there, my x-intercept. All right. So I hope this screencast has been helpful. I know I ran through that pretty quickly. Feel free to watch it again. Check what you got on your Scantron and why you picked that, and learn from your mistakes, because you'll see questions like this again in the not-so-distant future. Thanks for watching, and have a great day.